Good afternoon, this is David Wendell with BushcraftOnFire, and we're continuing in our series of knots for out in the bush. Now, so far we've gone over the square knot, the granny's knot, the thief's knot, and the figure eight, and seeing how to utilize them. Today we want to go over 4 more knots. We want to go over the taut line hitch, the bowline, the sheep bend, and the girth hitch. And these knots are basically used for tarp applications and for hooking things on to a tree, to a tarp, to a tent stake, or also the bowline can be used in a makeshift rappelling situation for emergencies only. So let's get right to work and go over these knots. What I've done is taken a piece of old tarp and just cut it off to give you an idea. Now here's the grommet on the tarp, and what I've also done is to take a small piece of cordage. I have some of these loops in my e-kit, but you can also take and make these out in the bush. This is about 2 inches long, and what this does is give me cordage that I can put through my tarp with what's called a girth hitch or lark's foot. What you do, and it's a very simple knot, is simply slide the loop through your tarp, then pull one end of the loop through the other end. It makes basically a very simple single Prusik knot, and that is good to be able to tie off to your tent stake or to put tent stakes through in order to hold your tarp down on the edges. A very useful knot. It's called a girth hitch. Again, you may recognize this because if we go through 2 times, then it will become a Prusik knot, and Prusik knots will help us to keep things from sliding on another cordage. Let me show you that real quick. I'm just going to real quickly throw a piece of cordage out here and hold it out tight. And as I hold this out tight, I'm going to slip the Prusik knot through that. What you do is simply put the end over once, put it through once, and put it through twice, and then pull it tight. This forms the Prusik knot. You can put it through 3 times if you want, but that Prusik knot, if you pull on the knot, won't move. However, it's very easy to slide it down. And this is used for applications such as tying on tarps over your head in a hammock situation where you don't want that tarp to move, and it'll hold tight like that, but you can adjust it by just pulling it up. So that is the basic of a Prusik knot and a girth hitch. The second knot that we want to go through today is the bowline. Now the bowline is a very useful knot. You can tie this around your tarp to do the same thing we just did by holding out and using it to stake down. But another application is if you were to put your cordage around your waist, then you could use the bowline to tie off around your waist, and it's a very strong knot. Now what you do for a bowline basically is you have a long end of the cordage that is going to one end and your tag end. On the long end of the cordage, simply, you can see my bite here, put your hand and flip your cordage. Okay, so I'm going to put my hand and flip my cordage away from me. It's very important it's away from you. You can't come back toward you or the bowline will slip. So you want to go away from you. And then everybody who's been in Boy Scouts has probably heard this. You come up through the loop, or the rabbit comes out of the hole, goes around the log, and back into the hole. Now, in order to tighten this up, it's very important you pull on the proper cords. What you need to do is this tag end and the end that would be around your waist, if you can imagine this little thing being around my waist, and the piece that is going up to the top, you would pull those to tighten this down. That is a proper bowline. Okay, so we're going to go through that again. Again, it's very, very important. I have a good friend whose son saw a video of a bowline. He went out and tried it. He's a young fella, and he was tying it up to the top of a trampoline cage, and what happened was he didn't tie it properly, and either the bowline slipped or he slipped off the rope and broke his hand. So Daniel, this knot's for you. Okay, we take and we flip away from us flip away from us to make our loop. We come up through the hole, go around the standing line, and back down into the hole. Then we pull the standing line in one hand and the two pieces that are together in the other hand to tighten it up. Now one thing, if I was using this for rappelling or anything else, I would finish this off by throwing a couple half hitches, and those half hitches would stop that knot from slipping out. So that's the Bowline. I hope that that's helped you out with that. That's a pretty good non-slip knot. Again, you could tie that through your tarp, and then you could use it to go over and to hold to a stake, as well as some of these other hitches. The third knot that we want to go over today is one that we've already covered in a tarp video, and that is the taut line hitch. Say that I have this line coming off of my tarp. Perhaps I've put a girth hitch around it and held it to my tarp. I have a stake out on the ground, and I bring a bight around the stake. Then I simply make a half hitch on the inside. I make a second half hitch on the inside, and then I make a third half hitch on the outside of the cord, all going in the same direction. When I tighten these down, you'll see that it makes a little knot called the taut line hitch. Now the reason this knot is so good is because if I pull on this, it's tight. But if I need to tighten up, say my tarp, what I can do is simply slide this knot, and then it holds in place tight. It's very similar to a Prusik knot in its holding power, and it's a good knot to know if you have to have adjustable lines, guy lines on your tarp. Let me go ahead and do that again for you. The standing line comes out, our tag end goes around in a half hitch, around a second time. They're both on the inside of the loop, and the third time we come around on the outside of the loop, forming the taut line hitch. Now there's a variation on the taut line that I'll go through real quick with you. Let me get this out. And that variation is pretty simple. What you do is go around on the inside once, go around on the inside twice, and the third time come around both ropes on the same side. You're not going on the outside this time, but the same side, and tighten that down. That's another variation on the taut line hitch. I don't like it as much. It still slides, it still holds nice and tight. So you go around with your two half hitches, and on the third time you simply come around both ropes and lock it in with your half hitch. So that's the taut line hitch. Again, that's usable for many situations, the most important of which is if you need an adjustable line on a tarp or a tent situation.